Imagine this. You walk into a drugstore, shelves packed with grooming products. Some brands fight for attention, others blend into the background. But then there's Old Spice. A name that feels like it's been there forever. Reliable, familiar, even old. But here's the thing. Familiar doesn't always mean relevant. And in the late 2000s, Old Spice had a problem. It wasn't the scent, it wasn't the formula. It was something far more dangerous. It was forgettable. Hey, it's Nick, and welcome to the Ricochet Moment, where I dive into the history of brands that have stood the test of time and attempt to identify a single decision that changed their trajectory forever. How does a brand go from your grandfather's aftershave to a global sensation? And more importantly, what's the one decision that changed everything? This is Old Spice's Ricochet Moment. The year is 1937. William Lightfoot Schultz, founder of the Schulten Company, has an idea. A fragrance inspired by his mother's potpourri. He calls it Early American Old Spice. But here's the twist. It's for women. A year later, he introduces a version for men. That version, well, it takes off. By the 1950s, Old Spice is everywhere. The bottles, the sailing ships, the distinct spicy scent. It becomes a staple of American bathrooms. Now sure, this could have been the Ricochet Moment. A smart pivot from women to men. It's interesting, but it wasn't a revolution. It was a logical step in a new category. The real Ricochet Moment? That was still decades away. Fast forward to the 1990s. Old Spice is no longer the only player on the shelf. New challengers enter with sleek packaging, cool fragrances, and the promise of swagger. And Old Spice? Well, it's there. Steady, sturdy, but slipping into irrelevance. In 1990, Procter & Gamble acquire the brand. They try a few things. New packaging, updated products. But it's like putting a new paint job on a car with a dying engine. They're modernizing, but not transforming. Until someone finally asks the right question. Who is Old Spice really for? Here's the thing about branding. It's not just about the product. It's about who sees themselves in it. And that's where things get tricky. Because when you live inside a brand, when you've been with it for years, it's hard to see the opportunity right in front of you. You start tweaking instead of rethinking. You focus on not losing ground instead of finding new territory. But the best creative partners, they don't just ask, how do we stay relevant? They ask, who's missing from the conversation? And that's exactly what Weeden and Kennedy did. Weeden and Kennedy, for some background, well, they're the independent creative agency known for bold, culture-shifting work with brands like Nike and Coca-Cola. So in 2006, Weeden and Kennedy take over the Old Spice account. And they do what they're famous for, zooming out. They look at the entire category, not just at how Old Spice was marketing, but who they were marketing to. And what they saw was a wide open lane. Because while the ads were still focused on the seasoned gentleman, the biggest opportunity wasn't in the past, it was in the future. Young guys, middle schoolers, high schoolers, the ones who hadn't yet developed brand loyalty, the ones just starting to care how they smelled. Instead of just trying to chase back the 40-year-olds who had already moved on, W&K convinced the brand to go younger. Way younger. So Old Spice starts handing out free samples in 90% of 5th grade health classes, nationwide. That's not just marketing, that's infiltration. They weren't playing defense. They were planting the flag for a new generation. But samples alone won't change perception. If they wanted to make Old Spice cool, they needed more than product. They needed culture. And that's where Whedon and Kennedy's brilliance truly shows. Think about it. They could have just made a safe ad. Clean cut, handsome guy, a wink, a smile. But that's not what people remember. They didn't just try to make a good ad. They made a new language. A surreal, absurd, hilarious monologue. A man, shirtless, talking directly to you, the viewer, without blinking. Suddenly, he's in a bathroom, then on a boat, then on a horse. And the entire time, he's cool, he's confident, he's unbothered. And the tagline? The man your man could smell like. Here's the kicker. They weren't even targeting men. The campaign was designed to speak to women because Procter & Gamble's data showed that women make most of the purchasing decisions. So the ads weren't saying, be like him. They were saying, you deserve a man who smells like this. It was funny, it was fresh. It was viral before brands knew how to go viral. And it worked. The ad drops in 2010. Within months, it racks up tens of millions of views. By 2011, Old Spice leapfrogs Right Guard to become the #1 men's body wash in America. But let's be clear, the Ricochet Moment wasn't the ad. It wasn't even Isaiah Mustafa on a horse. It was the insight, the strategic pivot, the decision to stop selling to the past and start owning the future. Whedon and Kennedy helped Old Spice see what it couldn't from the inside. They pinpointed the opportunity, reframed the audience, and reimagined what this legacy brand could feel like in a modern world. That's the real magic. The ad, well, it just made it unforgettable. So what's the takeaway here? When something stops working, don't just update the packaging. Ask better questions. Look beyond your current customer. Find people who should be part of your story, but aren't yet. Sometimes the real breakthrough doesn't come from looking harder at your product. It comes from understanding who you're really for. That's how you win. Not just impressions, not just clicks, but love, loyalty, and longevity. Thanks for listening to the Ricochet Moment. If this episode hit home, share it with someone who loves brand storytelling as much as you do. And if you got a brand pivot you think we should explore, hit me up. Until next time, keep looking for the moments that change everything.